guys, Clyde here, and I am here to talk about one of my absolute favorite ships in World of Warships. It is a ship I loved so much, I even made a stupid cartoon about it. You can watch that video elsewhere on my YouTube channel. Today, yes, we are going to be talking about the Russian destroyer Khabarovsk and how she's going to be replaced by a new ship, the Tier 10 Russian destroyer Delny. Let's get into it. Later in the video, we will compare the specs of these two ships in detail, and we're going to see what it is we're going to get with the Delny, this new addition to the Russian destroyer family. People like to talk about how the Khaba has been power crept and it isn't very good anymore, and while I don't think she's very popular right now, she is certainly not a bad boat. Khabarovsk is the second highest tech tree destroyer for damage at tier 10, and the only tech tree ship that does any better is the Elbing. That is the newest tech tree destroyer in the game, so she hasn't been crept that much in terms of getting damage. Now, maybe people think Khaba is bad or has been left in the dust because she's a gunboat. I think some people just don't like gunboat destroyers. They don't understand them, they don't think they're effective, and maybe in competitive, they're right. But I don't think that they're bad boats. I don't think that's true. 4 of the top 5 destroyers for getting damage at tier 10 are gunboat destroyers. 2 of them don't even have torpedoes. They get all of their damage with their main battery. So gunboats are maybe just different than tort boats. They're probably not very good at contesting caps, certainly not early in the game, and they only push objectives once the defenders of those objectives are dead. I like to think of them as selfish ships, but not bad ships, right? And they might not be the best suited for team play, for competitive play, and I understand that. I even support it. I think that's not a bad statement to make. Now, in June of 2020, a new page went up on the wiki announcing a test ship in the Russian destroyer line called DDR-10. It was rumored that this ship would be an eventual replacement for the Khaba, sort of like how Moskva was pushed out so that Petro could come in and be the new Russian heavy cruiser at tier 10. Yesterday, October 1st, 2021, that rumor came true. Early in 2021, Wargaming announced we will be getting the Russian destroyer Delny as a replacement for the Khabarovsk. Like the Moskva, Khaba will move to become a special ship. For all intents and purposes, a premium ship. You'll be able to move commanders around without penalties or retraining. People who don't have Khaba now will be able to buy her for coal. People who do have Khaba will get to keep her, and people who've researched her at least, maybe they haven't purchased the ship, they'll be able to have them added to their accounts. They'll just get the ship for free. The unique upgraded permanent camouflages will remain on your account if you have them, and if you didn't buy the permanent camo, they're going to give it to you for free. If you do have the permanent camo, you'll get the permanent camo for Delny. That is really great. You may remember if you were an owner of Moskva before, when it was a tech tree ship, I had the permanent camo on that ship, and when they moved it out to a special ship, I got nothing. I had given them doubloons for a permanent camo that I never, ever, ever got paid back for. What's interesting is, as they're rolling out this Delny push to replace the Khaba, they are also looking back to us Moskva owners who had the ship back in the day, and they are going to give us the Alexander Nevsky camo in sort of like a reparations kind of thing. I think that's really cool, and I'm excited that we're getting paid back for that. I think that's something that they should have done. Now, Wargaming claims that the Khaba is not a natural successor to the Tashkent. I think that's probably BS, but I mean, honestly, what do I care? I love Russian DDs. Take a look at the 2 Russian DDs that I have the most games in. I honestly can't wait to get my hands on this ship. Okay, what I'd like to do next is go to a detailed comparison of these 2 boats and see what it is we're getting in the change from Khaba to Delny. Now, this ship here is the Tier 9 Tashkent, which is the Russian destroyer right before you get to the Khabarovsk. One of the things that they mention in the devblog article is that the Tashkent was basically used as a prototype for the Delny, and that Delny is an improved version of that ship. One of the improvements they mention in the article, is the improved armor layout. They say it has 19mm sheeting, which I don't know exactly what that means, unless it just means it has 19mm armor. Tashkent, you can see, has 19mm armor all up and down. There's no additional like plates or sheeting or anything like that like we see on Khabarovsk. If we take a look at the Khaba today, Khaba has these increased 50mm armor plates on the side, which make her hard to hit. We see similar material like that, although not quite that thick, I believe, on the Elbing. You can check that out in my IFHE video as well if you're curious about the Elbing's armor layout. If we take a look at the Grozovoy, for example, the other Tier 10 Russian destroyer, it also has 19mm armor, just like what we saw on the Tashkent. So I don't know that the armor is necessarily going to be drastically improved for Delny over, say, Tashkent or Grozovoy, but that's probably okay. In fact, actually, having a little bit thinner armor with the overpens that we're seeing right now in the game is probably going to be fine, maybe even beneficial for Delny, especially if it winds up not having a citadel like we do have on some other Russian destroyers. I guess we'll wait and have to see on that one. So first things first, let's just take a look at this beautiful high-resolution photo of the Delny from the dev blog today. So we can see that this boat does look more like Tashkent than it does look like Khaba, but again, you know, their line that Tashkent and Khaba don't look like ancestors in the same tree is kind of silly to me. I don't think they're that out of whack, but hey, if they want to give me another Tier 10 destroyer, like I said earlier, I'm into it. So, I mean, the bridge here looks more like the bridge on Tashkent. This is a 3-turret ship instead of a 4-turret ship, and obviously Khaba has 2 extra guns. That's something I'm going to miss with the Delny. It does have some torpedo launchers here, and it looks like those will be able to launch to both sides, so you'll have not any dedicated launchers. You'll be able to launch those port or starboard, kind of whichever direction you want to go there. And it does look like there's a decent number of anti-aircraft guns. Like I said, we're going to get into all the specs and kind of take a look at a comparison between the two ships, see which ones are stronger in what areas, and go from there. So next, let's just kind of walk down all of the relevant specifications of these two ships and see which one seems more capable. So I've gone ahead and taken all of the data from the devblog article and collected as close as I could the same data from the Khabarovsk. And I used the WoW's fitting tool to do that. I'll have a link down in the description to that wonderful tool. Hopefully it's something that you can get some usage out of. Delny has 22,700 hit points, which bests Khaba's 22.5. Very similar numbers, not a big deal. I didn't go grab the armor millimeterage, if you will, for Khaba, but we did just look at it a second ago. It has 50mm armor plates on top of a 19mm hull, so the better armor is going to go to Khabarovsk. Main guns has to go to Khaba because it has 8 of them. They also reload in 5 seconds, and they're 130mm guns, so same caliber. They also rotate faster at 9 seconds. I collected this data again off WoW's fitting tool with no captain and no modules and no nothing configured, so these are base numbers for Khabarovsk. Firing range is slightly better on the Delny, but not in a major way, so not a big deal. They share the same sigma, and as near as makes no difference, the same dispersion. Although they only gave me the larger dispersion number, I'm not quite sure what the vertical dispersion is on the Delny, so we'll have to wait and see how that comes out. I already mentioned the reload time is the same on both ships. The maximum HE damage is slightly better on Khaba, and when you realize that it also has 2 more guns, that's going to make a big difference in terms of damage output from the main battery. The HE penetration on both ships is 22mm because they both have 130mm guns. If you're curious about how HE penetration is calculated, you should watch my IFHE video, and I use the Daring as an example because it's a really interesting ship to discuss IFHE, but it's really more about IFHE than anything else. I think it's a great video. Hopefully you'll find it useful. HE fire chance for both ships is 8%. Slightly higher velocity guns on the Delny. That's a good thing. It means you're going to hit more of the shots because it's easier to hit with those flat arcs and these laser guns, these rail guns they put on these Russian ships. 950 is a very fast shell, so that's a big improvement for the Delny. I know it's only 50 meters per second, but I'll always take faster shells. AP damage is the same. Again, advantage really does go to Khaba on this one because it has that extra turret. That AP damage is going to be higher on that platform than on the Delny. Torpedoes, Max damage is much higher on Khaba, 19,500, but let's not forget how difficult it is to use Khabarovsk's torpedoes. They used to be 8-kilometer torps, which was hard enough to use, but now they're 6-kilometer torps due to a nerf that happened a few years ago. They're also very slow at 53 knots. The reload time is just over 2 minutes. And the rotation time is the same as Delny. Detection on these torps is really low, but honestly, if you're within 6 kilometers of a Khabarovsk, he's torpedoing you and you're already on fire and you're having a really rough day. Hopefully you can kill the Khaba before he gets away. If we take a look at the torpedoes on Delny, the story is much more interesting. This is something I'm very excited about. I love my torpedoes on the Grozovoy, and so obviously I think the torpedoes for the Delny are going to be similar. I didn't really do all the comparisons to Grozovoy. I don't think these are quite as good, but they're going to be really close to the same. 10 kilometers is the range, so that starts to be usable even, with 15,100 damage. 60 knots is a reasonable speed. Remember, these are all unbuffed speeds and ranges and things, so we should be able to make these go a little bit faster. Maybe can't change the range, but reload time 114 seconds is 13 seconds faster than what we see on Khaba, so that is fantastic. Rotation time's the same. Detection distance is 1.2, which isn't amazing, but anything that's close to 1 is pretty good. As long as they're not like 2 or 1.8, you'll find that that's a pretty effective figure there. So that is going to be just fine for these torpedoes, especially since you should be able to launch them undetected. We'll talk about that here in a bit. For AA, the short range continuous damage is a little bit better on Delny, but I think overall Khaba probably has better AA. It's kind of hard sometimes for me to compare these numbers, and I don't spend a lot of time studying the details of the AA system, but you can take a look at the figures here. A little bit more continuous damage for both the medium and the long range from Khaba, and a little bit less on Delny. There's also a note where it said hit probability 63. I think that's a typo, so I marked it in red text under the Delny there, where I think that's probably 100%, but I don't know because they didn't post that figure. The firing range is also a little bit shorter on the long range at 5.8 kilometers instead of 6, but honestly 5.8 is fine. I mean, that's what you get on most destroyers, so 6 kilometers is a slight benefit on the Khaba that you don't get on a lot of destroyers. The AA salvos, you get a bonus puff, the 3+1 puffs over there on Khaba. I'm not quite exactly sure why it's +1 instead of just 4. It could be that it's at a different distance, a different range ring of AA damage off of that destroyer. So anyway, you get an extra puff over on Khaba. The damage is actually higher on Delny. You can see I left it as green there. Whoops, that's an error I'm just noticing right now, and I'm probably not going to bother to correct it. I'm sorry. Slightly faster on Delny, 43.5 knots instead of 43 knots when it comes to maneuverability. So I'm all about speed in my destroyers. I never, ever don't want them faster. So I'm excited about the extra half a knot. And when you start using things like speed boost and signal flags, that will be multiplicative, right? We'll get a little bit more out of the Delny than we would have out of the Khaba. Probably not significantly, but I'll take it. Let's see, what else do we got here? Turning circle radius is the same, which is not great. We know the Khaba steers like a pig. It is terrible. So 760 meters is not a small circle for a destroyer. But the rudder shift time, look at this. Back in 2018? I don't remember exactly. Khabarovsk got a huge rudder shift nerf. That's also when they made the torpedoes worse. And that went from whatever it was then to 11 seconds base. Oh, it's 5 seconds on the Delny. The Delny is going to steer and drive around just like the Udaloy. I'm stoked about this. You might not have as many guns. You might not have quite the same AP damage or whatever, but you're going to be able to steer and juke and dodge, and you've got enough gun range there, 11.5, which is actually more than Khaba, that you can get a nice flat arc at a reasonable range, maybe 14-15 kilometers with some modifications, and you'll be able to dodge incoming fire. The Delny is going to be what the Khaba used to be, but obviously with better torpedoes and maybe less armor and slightly worse AA. So this rudder shift for me is huge on this ship. Detectability is also less, 8.5 instead of 9.7. The detectability range by air, it says 7.2 kilometers. That seems like an error to me. I don't think that's the real number because Khaba's is 3.96. We're used to seeing very small numbers like that, so I'd be surprised if 7.2 is correct. But we'll wait and see. Again, This is also, you look at the note there at the bottom. All the stats are listed without crew and upgrade modifiers, and everything is subject to change. These are not promises from Wargaming. It's just what they've got for us so far. Detectability after firing guns and smoke is slightly better on Delny than it is on Khaba. That's great. We're going to probably not be smoking very much because it says here under equipment, you get damage control party, repair party, and engine boost. It doesn't say you can swap it for smoke generator. Because you can swap it for smoke generator on Tashkent, though, I think you might be able to do that on this boat, and they just didn't include that information. Again, it's a situation where we're just going to have to wait and see. All in all, I think the Delny looks like a more powerful version of the Khaba. You're going to be able to torpedo, you're going to be able to stealth torpedo, you're going to be able to dance and dodge incoming fire, you're going to be able to fire at a similar range, you're going to have similar reload times, you'll have 2 less guns, so that's going to reduce your ability to do damage with just your main battery, but I really think the Delny is going to be an interesting boat. So you can bet your sweet patoot that I've got my eye on this one, because you guys know, and if you don't, now you do, love my Russian gunboat destroyers. I think Delny is going to be really interesting. I'm also excited, of course, because I get to keep my Khaba, a boat that I have over 200 battles in and really enjoy playing. And I'm hoping that Delny becomes something that's competitive, right? We're looking at Ragnar, we're looking at Druid, these new gunboat DDs coming out and being competitive. Maybe Delny can be kind of a tech tree version of that with a torpedo kicker. So anyway, for me, guys, I'm really excited about this new boat. I hope you are too. And I don't know, let's wait and see. I know I'm going to be getting my free XP or my Tashkent XP ready to go, so I can grab this thing on day 1 and get a video out to you guys, and certainly get some miles in for me, get some matches in for me to really enjoy this ship. Thanks for watching the video, guys. If you like what you saw today, please consider subscribing. If you liked hanging out with me on YouTube, you might like hanging out with me over on Twitch. I don't know, it's up to you. But you can come to twitch.tv/ClydePlaysLive and hang out with me and my wingman Scott there, and anybody else who's in chat. We have a great community. I'd love for you to be part of it. All right, guys, without further ado, I thank you for everything, and we will catch you in the next video. Have a great time. Take care of each other, captains. Bye. All right, our top story today is that people, I don't know, I'm not going to do that.